Your typical day, is this what you do? Is this the king?
Hey,
The AbaThembu king?
that's how it is. That's how it is, apparently. There are nicer days when they're not as busy as you see. But generally, this is how we manage ourselves. And this is our responsibility. Everybody who comes in, we need to take care of their stories, their complaints, their disputes, as well as all types of assistance that they require.
And what kind of things do you deal with? What kind of disputes and assistance are they seeking?
Mainly, we are dealing with disputes in chieftainship. We don't, in the past we had a court which also took criminal cases, but we felt we should eliminate that from kingship, and only concentrate on civil cases, disputes, and so forth. Then that's the main type of kind of problems that we face from the communities. The courts are not doing well even in the areas of traditional authorities, that is chiefs, because since the insertion of the present government, they lost popularity and the government could not fund them. And then there was also confusion about us shifting from the Department of Justice to the Department of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs. Apparently, that shift left the legal side of the institution not well attended to. This is why they are also trying to resuscitate a courts bill with the intention to actually revamp the process of court cases in criminal cases in traditional authorities. In the past, that traditional courts were looked at as abusing people, abusing human rights, abusing this and that. So this is why the government was not interested in keeping them abrupt. But their absence showed a big gap in terms of magisterial office overcrowding, with petty cases that would be solved, either by families in rural communities or cases that would be solved by a sub-headman or a headman or even a chief. It gave them a lot of influx where people, instead of having their cases, solved and settled in lower courts at the traditional level, they are now piling in magisterial courts. So this is why there is a need that these courts must be re-established or resuscitated. And this is why the government tried to come up with a bill that would at least be accommodative to the environment of today, to the democratic dispensation that we live in.
Does the community support these traditional courts?
Yes, of course. The communities need them because it's strenuous for them to go to town, even for small things. And it's strenuous for peace and, amicable solutions that would be handled at a chief's great place or headman's great place. Now, it sort of gets into their pocket. They need to spend more for small things that would have been solved without spending any money at all. And at the same time, the culture of the magisterial environment, they are not used to it. Sometimes their vernacular is not used. There's always got to be some interpretation. So it carries a lot of complications that even when they travel from those places, it impacts on their security. Sometimes they complain in town. By the time they get back here, they've already been robbed by a town crook, or, their trip bears other problems on the way. Especially that some people, the rural environment is always nearly about women, old ladies, children. Those are mainly the victims. And if these services are not closer to them, then life becomes more difficult for them. And sometimes they need relatives, traditionally speaking, to give them support when they go to these things. Now, if a person needs 3, 4, 5 relatives to back them up, cannot pay for all of them to town, and some of them then they lose interest in taking part on something that's going to need to have them to spend something. So it somehow defeats the ends of justice.
Okay.
Yes.
Back to you. You've been the AbaThembu king for 2 decades?
Yes.
What has happened in the past 10 years? When did it all start?
That was in 1992. In 1992, I came in around September. That was also the birth of my firstborn child, my son. I came into the position basically after one had failed to come up with anything from school. Then there was desperation within the clan itself. The regent at the time had problems of taking care of the family, problems of making unpopular decisions, problems that sometimes led to decisions that led to conflicts. And more seriously, endangering himself in the midst. He was facing a problem of having to create factions in a place, and these factions would try and assassinate or attack his home, as well as the people who assisted him in doing his job. So most people wanted me back for those 2 or more reasons. Then I felt I should come in and take over. I took over from that 1992 up until around 1994, when the country had its first democratic elections. I then opted to go to Parliament because I wanted to get some experience, I had also noted that I'm far from learning institutions, so I wanted to be closer. And I asked my brother to act on my behalf, the one who is in Mhlobo wenene, that is Patrick Dalindyebo.
Oh.
Yes. Then I didn't last.
Why? Yeah, I have to ask. I want details.
News that moves. eNCA.com.